Hello again everyone, Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about air signs dominant in a natal horoscope. Now, when I say air signs dominant, I mean simply the majority of your planets / influences in air signs. If you have, say, 4 planets in air, and you had the ascendant and midheaven in air as well, okay, that would be 6 total. So if all the other elements were less than that, then obviously it would be an air dominant chart. Now, looking at the air signs and having a dominance, preponderance, whatever you want to call it, planets in air and influences, of course, which can include the midheaven and or ascendant. This could indicate somebody that has very good communication skills, can be very verbose and articulate, loves the dissemination of ideas and concepts. However, air signs often, I believe, collectively or on average, they may have a plethora of ideas and they're inclined toward abstract thinking. However, they don't always have the persistence to follow through on them. An air sign person with a strong air emphasis in their natal chart could be somebody that is the type maybe to submit the ideas, but has somebody else maybe put it to some kind of practical use or actually build the idea, so to speak. And air signs, I look at them now. Air signs are extroverts. They're gregarious. They often can be very good in social dwellings and settings, and often like to go to places where others congregate, as opposed to the earth and the water signs, of course, are more introverted. Now, the air signs often have that uncanny ability to know what to say at the right time, and they can be very good in as far as being at parties, because they just know, they have that uncanny knack often to say the right thing, and often can make friends very readily because of this. They often like being around people, sharing ideas and concepts with them. They could be very articulate. The air signs are often can have strong interest in science and technology, innovations, new ideas. They don't like to be mentally stagnant. Their minds are often very active, and especially Gemini, I think, just doesn't want to sit still. There can be some restlessness in them. Air signs are more, I would say, because being extroverted, may be more outdoor inclined as opposed to being inside, because they like more to be around people. The nature is such where air signs are often very amiable, very cheerful, often a cheerful disposition. Now, the air signs, they have this affinity often for the exchange of ideas. They could be loquacious and talkative. The air signs are often can be intellectual. They're more objective often than subjective. However, other elements in the chart would have to be delineated, because somebody with the majority of planets, say, below the horizon, and even if somebody had like 5 planets in air and had the majority of their major influences in air signs, that would kind of modify things a little. And also, air signs, I don't see them, they're not devoid of emotion, but they're less emotionally exuberant on average than the other elements. So somebody with the majority of their influences in air signs may not always come across as emotional. They might appear somewhat detached, but they're not completely without emotion. And remember to just factor the whole chart into consideration when delineating something like this, because even somebody, say, has like 6 energies in air but has a water ascendant, that would modify the quote-unquote, that lack of emotionality, so to speak, very significantly, because the rising sign, as most of you know, is a very prominent point in someone's chart, and it's connected with our outer characteristics and demeanor that we readily express to others. So that is something to really consider when you're looking at a chart. And even there were a couple celebrities I noticed that came to mind that have a strong emphasis of water in their natal horoscopes. Now, one is Jennifer Jason Leigh. I think she had like 9 total influences and energies in air. She had the Gemini ascendant. I think she had like, including the midheaven, she had like 7 planets in Aquarius, and then the MC, the midheaven, in Aquarius. So, and most of her planets were above the horizon as well. When I say above the horizon, I'm referring to houses 7 through 12. Now, obviously, she's probably very gregarious, very extroverted. I see her probably being very good in party situations and social gatherings where others congregate, and probably makes friends very readily. Now, another celebrity I thought was very interesting. Now, many of you may have heard of the actor known as Richard Dean Anderson, and he's widely recognized for being in the MacGyver series, where he had that uncanny ability to improvise and use everyday things to help him extricate himself out of certain predicaments and certain situations. I mean, and I think when you look at his chart, okay, he has multiple grand air trines in his chart, and yes, I am including the ascendant in that. And he has the majority of his influences in air signs. He has an air dominant chart. And I think a lot of times actors and actresses are at least subconsciously drawn to their portrayals, their acting roles, which correspond a lot with their horoscope. And Richard Dean Anderson has an Aquarius Sun and Gemini rising. Now, it's safe to say on those shows, I think he incorporated that quick-witted Gemini rising with the Aquarian ingenuity to help him get himself out of a lot of those quote-unquote dilemmas. I mean, there was one episode where he was like using water jugs and rope and probably a few other things which I can't remember to get himself out of a bad situation. And then another episode where he took a credit card in order to stop a bomb from exploding. So it just seems like I'll notice that a lot with actors and actresses, and I could see Richard Dean Anderson probably is very creative in real life, and I could see him having very strong aptitude for things of a mental nature, and probably is very, very articulate and very verbose at the same time. And anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for having a natal chart that's air dominant. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about natal charts that are fire dominant. Now, 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.